Hi there. I just want to give you a quick summary of the Epic financial card game and what its objectives are and how to play the game. So the game is a trick-taking style card game aimed for people 9 years and above and for 3 to 6 players. The objective is the objective of the game is to win the last trick in each round to get the highest possible score. And along the way you'll learn goal setting, risk, and the massive effect of compounding. The game consists of the card deck, and in the card deck you've got your high and low risk cards. So this is a double-sided card, and you use this for your goal setting. I'll explain more about that in a moment. And then the rest is made up of your 4 different asset classes, or 4 suits if you're used to a normal deck of cards. So you've got bonds, gold, stocks, and property. And each of these cards is numbered from a bear, which is the lowest number. Bear is a 1, 2 through to 10, and then the bull. So the bull is the highest card, except for when a bull is played, a bear can go on top of a bull and resets that, and I'll explain more about that in a moment. So to set up the game, you take your high and low risk cards out of the deck, put them to the side. Everyone will get one of those for their goal setting. So you shuffle the deck. This is pre-shuffled, as you can see. So you shuffle your deck, and then you deal 6 cards to each player. So when each player has 6 cards, you look at your hand, and at this stage you're setting your investment goal. So the investment goal will determine what the score you get at the end. So in this case here, what you're setting is the compounding effect of your score. The number of tricks you get will be the score that you have, and the compounding effect will be the number here on this card, plus it needs to be the right asset. So this will be explained further later. So from a high score perspective, a high number is going to give you the highest potential return, but be mindful in the scoring when we get to explaining that there's also a chance you could get a negative scoring. So in your goal setting, you need to choose, do you want to go for the higher return? But also there is a risk of getting a negative score. So in this case, I'm going to go for the high return. I take this card out of my hand, I put it down, I don't let anyone else see what that card is, and then I take another card and put that in my hand. So I've always got 6 cards, and you always play with 6 cards right through to the end until there's no cards left in the main deck, and you then deplete your cards in your hand as well. So I just put that down. Next, I choose my investment goal. I either want to go in low risk or high risk, and I just choose that by placing that card on top of my investment goal, and I put that to the side. It's not relevant until the end of the game when we get to scoring. So everybody does that. They choose their investment goal, and then we get ready to play, which will move on to the next step. So to start the game, you choose who's going first. It can be left of the dealer or something more exotic, and you can choose whoever goes first. So the person that goes first, they look at their hand, and from their hand, they choose what they're going to lead with. Now the card that they lead with becomes the lead asset class. That asset class is the only class that can win the hand. So in this case here, looking at it, I'm going to play a 9 of stocks. That becomes the lead asset class, and only stocks can win this hand. So place a card, take another card, put it in your deck, and it's the next person's turn. So they'll play their card. They put a 7 of property down, can't win because it needs to be a stock. They take another card and put it back in their hand. Next person plays, 7 of stocks is lower than the 9 of stocks, so they're not going to win that hand. Take a card, put one back in your deck, and the last person plays, and they've got a 10 of stocks. They take a card, whoops, wrong way around, goes back in the deck. So this person has 10 of stocks, which beats the 9 of stocks, and the 7 of stocks, which didn't count anyway. So they win that trick. They take that trick, put it aside. That becomes part of their scoring later, and then this person now leads the next hand. So they'll play their next card. So they've got a bull of bonds. They place a card, take another one, put it in their hand. Now this person here wants to play, so it's their turn. They look at their hand. They haven't really got any bonds, so they can't win that hand. So they put a low card out and then take another card and put that in their hand. Next person plays. 8 of bonds doesn't beat the bull of bonds. and then they take a card. The next person plays, and they've got a 4 of bonds is what they're playing, and so this card leads because it's the highest card, and they take that and win that trick, and they start the next round. And you keep playing like that until all the cards are depleted. So you deplete the main deck, and then once that's gone completely, then you play from your hand only until there are no cards left. And the winner is the person that wins the last trick. So it doesn't matter how many tricks you win, that only counts for scoring. The scoring comes into account for the person that wins the last trick. And that's where really it takes a lot of strategy to play the game, not only in a way you want to win as many tricks as possible, but same token too, you need to win the last trick because that's what determines the scoring, and you getting the highest possible score is by winning the last trick. Okay, so we've continued to play. Everyone's now got 1 card left. So this person won the last trick. They go first, they play their hand. They've got a 9 of bonds. Next person plays 7 of gold, so they're going to win. This person plays 4 of gold, that's what they've got. So the bonds need to be the card that wins. This person plays and they've got a bull of bonds. So the bull of bonds is higher than the 9 of bonds. So this person wins the last trick and they win the round from the perspective of scoring. So they take that trick, put that in their hand, and now we determine the score. So what the person does who wins the last trick, they then choose the investment goal. So they pull out their card, and gold is the winning investment. So they calculate their score. Now the score is the number of tricks that you've got, that you've won, compounded by the number in this card. So in this case, their goal is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Compounded 10 times. So that's 5 doubled is 10, doubled is 20, then 40, 80, 160, 320, 640, 1,280, 2,560. So that's what 5 to the power of 10 is. Now, this is where the high risk, low risk card comes in. If you have a high risk card and you're the winner, you get double your score. So this person will get 5,120, which is 5 compounded to the power of 10, doubled. So they get that. That's what their score is, 5,120. This player, before they move on to the next go, the player then chooses the losing asset classes. For low risk investors, they get the 1 losing asset class. For high risk investors, there's 2 losing asset classes. So which means for low risk investors, there's 2 safe classes, and for high risk investors, there's only 1 safe class. So the person picks first, their first card, which is bonds. So I'm just using this card as a representation of the bonds, ignore the number. So they say bonds is the first losing asset class, which only applies to the low risk investors. So bonds is a losing asset class, and the other 2, stocks and property, are safe. Then they choose 1 other card. In this case, they're choosing stocks. So from the high risk investor's perspective, then the only safe asset is property. So after this, the winner chooses those 2 losing asset classes. Remember, bonds only applies to low risk, bonds and stocks applies to the high risk investors. Then the other people work out their score. So in this case, this player has bonds, so that's a losing asset class. So for a low risk investor that has a losing asset holder, they lose 1 times their total score. So in this case, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 to the power of 7. So that's 5 doubled is 10, doubled again is 20, 40, 80, 160, 320. So they get negative 320 as their score. This person here, high risk investor, what asset class they've got? They've got 10 compounded to the 10, which is the compounding factor of 10. So they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 tricks they've won. So that's 4 to the power of 10. Now, as a high risk investor, they also double that score. So they get 4 to the power of 10 doubled as a negative score. So they've got 4 doubled, which is 8. Doubled again is 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, 2048 is 4 to the power of 10. Then we double that because they're a high risk investor with a losing asset. It's 4,096, a negative score of 4,096 for this player. Then the last player, we look at their card there. They are a low-risk investor with property. So property is a safe asset class. A safe asset class for a low-risk investor, they get half their score. So they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 tricks to the power of 5. So 4 doubled is 8, doubled again is 16, doubled is 32, and doubled again is 64. So they've got 64, but as a safe asset holder, they get half their total score. So they get a score of 32. So that's how the scoring works. Then you pack up all the cards, shuffle them out, play again, play another round, and you keep adding up, play for 10 rounds, and the person with the highest score at the end of those 10 rounds is the winner of the game. And as you can see, it clearly comes down to goal setting. What is the goal you're going to set? What is your investment return? The higher investment return, compounding effect, the greater your chance of a higher score, but also too, if you're losing, the greater your chance of a lower score. And the same is multiplied with the high and low risk cards. A high risk card is going to give you a higher potential of a bigger return, but there's a greater probability that you'll have a low return compared to a negative return compared to a low risk investor. So a low risk investor won't make as much generally, but over time the probability should be in their favor that they're rewarded. But like in life, it doesn't always work out that way. So that's the goal setting part. The risk part obviously is in the relation to you do not know which cards is the high card. So you've got, as we talked about, the bull and the bear. Then you've also got the element of you need to play strategic enough to get as many tricks as possible to increase your potential score. But same token, that only works if you get the last trick. So you really have to think about how you're going to play strategically enough to win the last trick. And of course, there's a huge element of risk here as to whether you are going to be in a position to lead the last couple of hands so that you've got the leading asset, or a lot of luck in the sense of having the right card to win the last hand, which then determines the scoring we've just gone through. So that's a brief overview of how to play Epic Financial Card Game. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Happy to explain more. And I hope you enjoy playing the game. Thank you.